Hello everyone and welcome to episode 33 of Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. My name is NBZ and I may have a little bit of a sore throat today, but we should be able to push things through. Joining me here to prop me up with his ever strong shoulder is Bally, I guess.
My strong shoulders?
I don't know, the metaphor got away
my
from me.
My shoulders don't feel very strong right now, I don't know, just not gymming enough.
Being weighed down by the weight of the world, I guess.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm, yes, as I said, getting over a little bit of illness, but I should be able to. I'm down with the sickness. Oh, great. Love a bit of Disturbed, I'll tell you. Good stuff. Okay, well, with that rambling intro aside, hopefully I won't be coughing and spluttering too much. Bally, why don't you tell the fine folks at home how the show will be laid out this week?
As usual, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. We have a few of your emails, and then we're going to do a little bit of a news roundup. So there's been a few stories here and there that we thought we'd just have a little chat about.
Yeah, nothing too major happening, but there's lots of little things that we can compile into a whole.
A compendium of news.
Right, exactly. Exactly, indeed. So that's what we're going to be doing. So without further ado, let's start the show off with a bang. Bally, what is it that you've been playing these past couple of weeks?
I have been playing. This was your number 2 from last year of the games you played that year that didn't come out that year, and that is Mega Man 2.
That's the thing, Bally. Can't talk about Mega Man without singing Mega Man.
I'm
what I mean?
In a singing mood today. I just don't have the lyrics for it. But
unfortunate, but
I completed this game in 2 sittings in 4 hours,
which is pretty much the exact conditions that I finished it in last year as well.
Yeah, and it was really addictive, really addictive. I thought. Initially I had to force myself to play it because, I don't know, there's just something not appealing on the surface of it for me to play Mega Man 2, but I was like, it's such a classic. You bought it for me ages ago, and I was like, I've got to play it. But
yeah, this is an interesting story here with Mega Man 2, if we go back to it, because on the Wii, you could gift games.
Exactly.
And so for your birthday one year, I gifted you Mega Man 2 as one of these games.
Yes.
You never played it yourself on the Wii, and I played it when I came round to your place on your Wii, basically. That's how I played it. And obviously at that time we didn't have the save states to abuse, so I never really got that far. I killed some robot masters and got through the first few, but I never really got anywhere. Fast forward to Wii U, now it comes out on the eShop, and obviously you can pay the £1 or however much it is a pound, is it, to upgrade it, I think?
I think it's slightly less than that for NES games, but yeah,
right, maybe a little less.
It's not much at all, really.
Yeah, it's hardly anything, but
you'll
basically get the boost.
So yeah, and then you also gifted me Mario World, which was another game I talked about.
Right, yeah, it was the same thing.
Yes, I'm clearing out the backlog.
Excellent.
From a very long time ago.
Well, you got to do it somehow, don't you? So
I think this is the most playable NES game I've ever played. Now, I've not played many NES games at all. I've barely completed any. Really,
I don't think you've ever completed one.
Exactly.
I think the only NES game either of us have beaten is Mega Man 2, funnily enough.
Yes, no, you've done Mario Bros. 1.
Right, I've completed the original Mario Brothers, yes.
I've never actually completed that game, which is very embarrassing.
Well,
And we've dabbled in the Ambassador games on the 3DS, and they're just so unplayable in my opinion. So many of them are really grinds to play, but
right, to the point at which I'm doing an endurance run of the original Legend of Zelda
exactly.
to kind of force myself to play it, because otherwise I wouldn't do it.
And I had to force myself to play Mega Man 2 initially, but the second I was there and I was going through the levels, I was like, this is really playable. This is really good fun, and a lot of it felt just as slick as, another 2D platformer I don't know, Shovel Knight or something. It felt really great. Getting to the end of the levels, fighting the bosses. I was abusing the save states quite badly, but nothing as badly as Mario World, actually. So
you found that game harder in general than Mega Man 2?
In general, I think Mario World is slightly harder, and in my opinion, just slightly less fun to play. So in Mario World, I had to use the save states mid-boss on certain bosses, just because I just did not enjoy that game. It was just too hard, and I was like, screw this, I'm just going to save state here, whatever. Do it, whatever. Don't care. Just get me to the end of this game. I want to complete it. Whereas this game, I specifically told myself, like, right, I'm going to defeat every boss in this game, no matter what it takes. So I'd always only save state before the boss, and I'd clear it out every time. And I really think the bosses, just like my praise for Shovel Knight, the bosses really make this game, in my opinion, because the 2D platforming levels, they're good, they're great fun, don't get me wrong, but I think the bosses are so much more fun and so much more epic, and like, you just have to focus a lot more, and I think that you have to use a lot more gaming skill to beat them than the rest of the level.
It's really a lot about pattern memorization, right? And that's the kind of the key element here. And, the game that I'm going to talk about, Gunman Clive 2, very similar, kind of, inspired by the same kind of school of design as Mega Man, as, similar to Shovel Knight, where it is basically knowing what the boss is going to do, like basically having a go at him first, understanding his pattern, then coming back and kind of going straight at him, knowing that's the case. But the thing with Mega Man, though, is interesting, is you have the different Robot Master weapons. So if you know an enemy's weakness, you can go in there and just make clean work of them without having to really try whatsoever, or trying to, pull it out of the bag without, any of that. So,
and I never really fully monopolized on the weapons, and I wasn't.
So were you just using like the Mega Buster most of the time, just the pea
shooter?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. There are certain enemies and bosses in the game that literally don't work against the pea shooter that I did
absolutely.
have to look online and just be like, what the hell am I meant to do against this boss? Such as the final boss with the bubbles.
Right. The single way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
so
crazy.
I wasn't really going into the final bosses and going, yep, here's your weakness, I'll clean you out. I think part of me, I did want to just challenge myself and try to use a guide less. So yeah, I was just going in there using the Mega Buster, and yeah, defeated almost all the bosses in the game like that.
That's really interesting.
Just by accident, I did start using the metal blade a little bit. I was just experimenting a little more.
You really do need to use that quite a lot. If you're going to go through this game the way that God intended, right, without using save states, you need to make use of those weapons, like, throughout the whole thing.
And I was save stating a lot, because there's a final boss rush at the end, just like Shovel Knight. Wonder where they got that idea from.
Oh, right, exactly.
And yeah, I was experimenting with the metal blade, especially because I had just by chance read online, because it's all over the place, that the metal blade is amazing, you have to get it straight away, it's so good, you have to use that on every boss, blah blah blah.
The thing about the metal blade is it's super effective on like multiple of the bosses. It kills Metal Man himself in one hit.
Yes, yeah. So I did that by sheer chance. Like, I was like, right, let's just try this, bang, and it was he's dead.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the thing about it, like, it hardly uses up any of your secondary bar, right? So throughout the game, obviously, you're getting these secondary pickups, which you didn't know this until after I told you. But there are the two types of pickups. There are the round balls, which are your health, and then there are the kind of like tube stripped like blue glowing things, which will replenish any of the weapons you've used throughout the level. Obviously, when you finish the level, you'll get everything replenished anyway. But say you're using like the items, so the one that gets across the pit, like the jet.
Items 1, 2, and 3.
Very inventive, of course. Items 1, 2, and 3. So those, obviously, if you're going back through a level and you've died, you're going to have to try and farm enemies to try and replenish that stuff, and that's what people had to do back then.
So just on those items 1, 2, and 3, I wasn't a massive fan of those, and I hate the idea that you have like this platform stored in your back pocket that you use, and the idea that you've got a finite amount of it is really frustrating. And like you were saying, I didn't actually realize you could recharge your items, so I just assumed that they ran out. So I had ran out of items 1 and 3 when I had to face the boss, which is 7 lasers just on
it's
the
the
wall
crash bomb boss, basically,
yes.
where they're just on a timer to shoot lasers at you, and they will all cross the screen at the same time and crush you.
I defeated that boss only using the platform that drifts along the screen horizontally. So I was using the horizontal platform to gain vertical height. So it was really, really bloody tough. And like,
Right, you made that way harder for yourself. Way harder than it needed to be.
Yeah, it was really painful, but I did it, and like, it felt amazing when I did do it. And yeah, because you have so few shots with what did you call them? The bombs.
The crash bomb.
The crash bomb. So yeah, you have like a finite number of shots you can shoot with that, and you have to use every single one of them on specific walls and specific lasers in order to clear out that boss. And it was just so hard. And that was probably the low point of the whole game for me. Like, I know
absolutely, it was the same for me when I tried it. I was like, how the fuck did anyone ever do this? Like, without using save states back in the day. Of course, I later found out watching a stream of Colin Moriarty play Mega Man 2, and he's a massive Mega Man fan, has played all of them, is like a master of them. There's this trick you can do where if you buffer the pause button on that battle, you can basically avoid the damage that goes through to you, because it basically like screws with the system and glitches out. So I guess that's the thing they used back in the day to expose it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to do it.
So yeah, that was my low point of the game, and on top of that, I made that low point even more difficult for myself.
Yeah, great. That was great.
Sorry, yeah, but just to say, overall, had an absolutely great time. I'd be intrigued to just see which Mega Mans you try out in the future, and I'll probably just copy you, because I'm
because that's all you do.
Well, I liked it, but I'm not like absolutely dying to play another Mega Man, because part of me knows that this one is the best one, and I don't know. I've got a lot of other games to play. But yeah, no, I had a good time.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, at least you've had the experience. You know, you get all that music that you've known, and is now finally, you're hearing the originals. And I think, like, from an art perspective, it's simple, but like it's really effective. It works really well. Like the sprite designs are great, and it's just every stage has its own identity.
Yes.
Like it's all very individual, and yeah, I think that stuff stands out really well as well.
Yeah, good theming. Very nice.
Absolutely.
So I was playing that, and then other than that, I've been sinking. I sunk about 3.5 hours into the Codename S.T.E.A.M demo.
Right.
You have been playing a lot of this as well.
Yes, indeed. We've both picked up the demo. Before you got this, Bally, you were telling me, like, oh, I almost didn't download the demo because I was like, I couldn't be bothered. Yeah. I didn't know if
I had to
You
force
definitely had the
myself to
more
download
negative
this.
impressions of this game
absolutely.
out of the two of us. So
by a mile.
So, yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to get this game. It looks horrible. I just don't like it. The art style, the graphics, it's just horrible. And then, so like I was saying, I forced myself to download this demo because I thought, it's a massive game coming out this year. I got to at least give it a chance. I'd be stupid to turn down a free demo because,
absolutely.
Think of the old days when we would pray for demos from Nintendo. and now we're actually getting them. You might as well make the most of it.
Right,
So yeah, it's really cool. You start off with one character actually.
Yeah.
Is it one? I can't even remember.
Yeah, you start off with Henry, and then you get John Henry, because that's the smartest naming convention in fucking history.
And
God.
It just, for those who don't know much about how the game works, it's really hard to explain, isn't it?
Okay, so the premise is it's a turn-based strategy game. That's like the single genre-defining thing. The difference is, unlike Advance Wars and Fire Emblem, there's no overhead map view, so you never know where the enemies are. I mean, you can see them.
It's like constant fog of war-ish.
Right. I mean, a lot of people are comparing it to this game on the PS3 and PSP. It's called Valkyria Chronicles, where basically it's a similar idea. It's all turn-based, and you don't see an overhead view of any of the... Actually, I think maybe in Valkyria Chronicles you can do that. Anyway, whatever. Besides the point. The main idea is that you have the third-person perspective. So you're controlling the camera around these units on the ground. I guess, like, maybe think of Battalion Wars? Neither of us have played that.
Yeah,
way,
I've not played it either, and I don't really know much about how that game works. But
I'm kind of assuming here, like it's more of like because obviously this game is like full 3D and everything. It's not. I guess Fire Emblem Awakening was. Never mind. Let's look. Basically, you get it. I think people know what this is if they've been paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to like labor the point
and
here.
It works really well. Like it's really cool because your units have very, very different feeling weapons. So, for example, his name's Henry, right?
Which one? John Henry? John Henry's the dude with the grenade launcher.
Okay, so the guy with the Overwatch.
Okay, yeah, that's Henry.
Henry.
I think
So,
Henry
yeah,
Fleming. I don't fucking
your
know.
first
They,
guy
they
is-
need to think of better names. There's a lion called fucking Lion. Come on, intelligent systems. You're not living up to the name of being
But
intelligent.
maybe
here.
we should also mention that the entire game, as the title suggests, is based around Steam. So
Yes.
each character on your turn has a Steam meter, and you use that Steam to do different things. So that includes your movement, but also the use of your weapon. So Henry's cool because he's got a special weapon that if you finish your turn and keep a lot of Steam back, like you don't use up all your Steam on the same turn, then his weapon can automatically fire at enemies who get in his range, basically, in his view, and that's called Overwatch, which is a really cool defensive mechanic, which really reminds me of the long range weapons in Advance Wars, because you're sort of basically getting a defensive bonus for not moving units. It's that kind of dynamic, which is really nice. And then likewise, you've got John Henry, right?
Right.
Right. So he's got grenades, which they tell you are much better just for charging in and advancing. And the great thing about grenades, as opposed to the Overwatch rifle or whatever it's called, what's it called? Is it called like a?
I don't know, Steam rifle or
It's
something?
like a standard Overwatch Steam rifle or whatever.
Yeah.
But the grenades are great because they can hit multiple enemies at once.
And they also provide a knockback effect, so
Yeah.
you can kind of, depending on where they land, obviously, you can kind of delay the enemy so that so basically their movement will be limited when they come closer to you, so that potentially they won't be able to attack you if they see you and all
And
that
like
stuff, so.
the first few missions are just done with these two characters, and like it's really tough because not only do you have Overwatch, but a lot of the aliens, the enemies, have Overwatch as well. So you can just like end up walking around the corner and like, oh, there's an alien there, and he just starts shooting you, and like it's really difficult to.
And if you get seen by an alien, it basically locks out the steam that you've just used as well. So you can't, because basically the idea is like, you may use up steam through your movement, but you can then move back to where you originally were, and the steam will basically refill itself up. So you have like this amount of this certain area you can move around that you can basically explore. But if you get spotted by an enemy and shot at, then you lose that extra movement that you would have been able to employ and kind of place yourself where you want to be at the end of the turn. So it definitely encourages, like, especially when you're only with those first two characters, really encourages defensive play, because number one, you are really outnumbered, and number two, you don't have a healing unit yet, so you don't have someone who can basically pick you back up if you get screwed over. So.
And like the aim of these missions, or at least the ones we played in the demo, is just to get to the goal. So, and we were having a debate about this, NBZ, but basically you think that the enemies constantly respawn?
No, I think that in the specific level that you were talking about, so basically the last level with these two characters that you're using is this park setting, and enemies will come from behind you, and basically just... I feel like the enemies that come from behind you keep respawning, because what they want you to do is just funnel your way to the end, and they know that you're outnumbered, and they know they're going to wear you down, and if you like stand your ground and try and face them, you're going to have a really tough time getting through and being able to like win it out. So what I think they want you to do is say like, hey, in this mission, I know up to this point you've been playing defensively because that's how we've kind of conditioned you to do so, but now we're going to like tell you, get the fuck out of here, you can't handle this many enemies at once. And so I kind of realized that, and I was like, right, they keep respawning, they're not going anywhere, so I just got the hell out of Dodge, ran to the exit as soon as possible, and got out of there. And that was the way I dealt with it. But did you stay and like murder everyone? Is that how you approached that map?
Well, I tried a couple of times and then did fail. But I didn't even get killed by the enemies coming from behind me. I was getting killed by the ones in front of me. So like I don't know. It's tough. Like, and I guess we could go on to explain like like you were saying, you do get a healer unit on the mission, the final mission of the demo.
Right.
So she basically has these grenades that heal instead of doing damage, which is really cool because you can just...
And they also have an area of an effect, just like the normal grenades, so you can hit multiple characters with them at once. So you line yourself up and you get, out of one shot, you get multiple uses.
Which are really powerful. And like, on top of that, they introduced this idea of secondary weapons. So the guy we were just talking about before, Henry, his secondary weapon, I don't know if you noticed, MBZ, is actually a healing...
Yes, it is, but it's a single shot healing item, so you can only do it for one people.
So like these secondary weapons are always much weaker, and but at the same time they hardly use up any steam. But they're really handy. Just for example, I used that secondary healing item with Henry to heal the healer, because like she would always get hurt, and like she doesn't have an ability to heal her.
I mean, she can actually. I tried it out. If you reduce the range of the grenade, you know it has 3 notches, the distance to which it fires. So if you do the lowest distance, it basically surrounds herself. It's like with John Henry, sometimes you'll if you fire off a grenade and he's within range, he'll hurt himself. It's a similar idea. If she's in her own range, then she's going to heal herself,
that's cool.
So there is a way of doing it. It's just you kind of have to mess about it with it a bit. But I'll certainly say that once you get access to those 2 other characters, who is the lion and her, it becomes way more playable for me, and it was far more like a Fire Emblem situation where I felt like I was in control. I knew what I was doing. I kept rolling with it, and I had enough units at that point to where I could handle all these situations and balance all these things. Whereas with 2 people, it was really tough. Like, that was tension building, and it was great and fun in its own way. But I really liked having the full squad, and that really has convinced me now. I think I'm pretty much in for this game at this point. And funnily enough, I think you feel the same way about it now, Bally.
Yes. I should talk about the art before I say...
Right, this was a big sticking point, right, beforehand. Both of us had said, looks like a DS game, it's not the art style that we like, and obviously it's a very different thing seeing it on video on the internet compared to on a 3DS with 3D turned on and all that good stuff. So what were your thoughts then, Bally, on how it looked?
So, yeah, from E3... that was the thing that was turning me off the most, was the graphics. Like, I just thought the graphics looked
so
horrible.
Skin deep, Bally. So skin deep.
I at the time I wasn't even giving much credit to the art because the graphics were ruling it out. But having played it, the graphics are actually a bit better. They're not as don't get me wrong, they're still not amazing, but they are a bit better than I thought. And then on top of that, the art visually, once you're playing the demo, I think is far better than what E3 looked like. So I was really impressed by how the art looked in the game, and I love the setting. I think the idea of like the age of steam and like London, so you got the UK and you got America and you got Abraham Lincoln and the Queen, and you're in Buckingham Palace in London, and you're like all these obviously real places in this sort of alternate reality, sort of this age of steam where everything's powered by steam.
Oh, and there are aliens, by the way.
And then you have an alien invasion, and like that's what's uniting everyone to fight the aliens. And I just think it's a cool, quirky idea.
It's just really weird. It's just so out there, and it's not the kind of thing you expect. It's certainly not the kind of thing I expected out of Intelligent Systems, but hey, I guess they were talking a lot about how they were inspired by Silver Age comic books and that kind of thing, and that whole idea is really well executed in the cutscenes. I think the cutscenes are really excellent.
Yep,
how they kind of transition
comic
through
style.
the comic panels and show everything in that style. It works super well, and the 3D stands out pretty well in that.
But overall, I was giving this game absolutely nothing, no credit whatsoever. I forced myself to play the demo, and I'm so glad I did. I think even if I hadn't, you would have said to me, MBZ, like, Bally, I've played the demo, it's actually really good, you should give it a go. And then I would be like, okay, I'll try it out. But like, I went for it, I've really enjoyed the demo, and now I'm pretty confident I want to pick up this game day one.
And it's great that Nintendo have given us this demo, because I feel like so many people were in our position where we were kind of like, we have confidence in Intelligent Systems, we like the other things they do.
Exactly, because I'm an Advance Wars fan, you're a Fire Emblem fan,
right.
We're like, let's see what they can do with this brand new IP. It's really quite exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, so we had like kind of ambivalent feelings towards it, but kind of quelled those now, and we know what we're getting into, and it seems really exciting. And they actually showed like a trailer in the middle of the demo, which you could skip, which showed some really neat stuff, like some crazy moves that were going on. I expect kind of late game stuff that would be. So yeah, it's. I advise you, if you own a 3DS, go download the demo. Literally takes no effort. Just go do it and try it. Just give it a go, because you may really end up enjoying it.
And honestly, try if you can to play it until you get 4 characters, because it really does feel completely different to having the 2 characters.
Yeah, totally push through the hard, starting levels, which they are pretty challenging as far as.
I think also those first levels, they feel like a bit of a knack. Like you just basically get punished quite severely for little mistakes, and you just got to get the knack of how the units work. But yeah, great stuff.
All right, excellent. We both have enjoyed that, but I have also enjoyed a couple of other games. So, as I alluded to before, I bought and downloaded and finished within like a day and a half the game of the year 2015, Bally. I'll tell you what, motherfuckers, come out. It's time. Gunman Clive is back in town. So if you've not heard of Gunman Clive, little story that I have, I like to tell now and again.
I think you've said this on the show, but yeah.
I probably have, but it bears repeating. Gunman Clive was this really awesome eShop game that came out, I think, a couple of years ago. But the story behind it is that I was listening to Radio Free Nintendo. Excellent podcast, we both love it. And Johnny Metz was talking about this game, and he brought it up, and he said it's really cheap. And as he was talking about it, I was like, this sounds great. This sounds like the sort of thing I'd be interested in. It's super cheap on the eShop. And before he had finished talking about the game, I had already gone and downloaded and bought it. And then he finished, and I basically booted it up and started playing, and kept listening to the podcast while playing Gunman Clive. So I would very much enjoy it if any of you out there did the same thing with this podcast, where you listen to me talk about Gunman Clive 2, and as I do it, you go to the eShop, keep the chain. Yeah, absolutely.
And then send us an email about how you got on.
Yeah, exactly. So Gunman Clive 2, the sequel to the excellent first game. If you don't know what this is, it's essentially an action platformer in the style of Mega Man, so very similar influences there. But it has this awesome, sketchbook art style to it. And added to that, probably one of the best 3D effects on the whole 3DS. It's really mind-blowing. The detail that you get out of all of this artwork is just... it's kind of tingly feeling you get. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a really visually arresting style. And it just works. It works super well. You're this cowboy, Gunman Clive, and you go through the levels and you're shooting people up. It controls really tightly, and just like Mega Man.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen to pick it up because I've just ordered my new 3DS. It's going to be coming on launch day, hopefully, and I need some stuff to play on that thing. So I'm going to pick up Gunman Clive 1 and 2 and try and blast through them.
I mean, Bally, they cost £4.50 together.
That is
which is
cheaper than a London pint.
Right,
exactly.
Ridiculous. So yeah, it just has some really neat ideas, and there are some things in there which are Mario Galaxy inspired. There's a level which surprised the hell out of me, which is modeled after Afterburner, which is wait, what? I'm doing this 2D platformer. All of a sudden, it turns into this plane flying segment where I'm shooting in front of me, and that is out of left field and really surprised me. There's really great surprises throughout the game in terms of level variation and mechanic variation and kind of switching things up. There's upside down stuff. There's, as I said before, Mario Galaxy inspired things where you're kind of rotating around spherical objects and using gravity to pull yourself into places. It's just super cool, and it's really short. You can beat it in maybe 2 hours, I think it took me for my first run through. There are multiple characters. There's Clive himself. There's Chieftain Bob, who's this guy with a spear, so he can only attack close range. So he doesn't have a gun. He can't shoot anything. His spear just stabs through the air. So you have to get really up close and personal with enemies, and it really changes the way you play it. There's also a secret character from the first game, who, if you know the first game, you'll know what that is. We're not going to spoil it for anyone. It's really just funny and dumb and stupid. But it's so bright and cheery and fantastic. so much more color. Actually, the first game kept to this this palette of kind of beige, but it worked because it was this idea of being a sketchbook style. But he's added like this. By the way, I should mention this is made by one man, one dude from I believe Sweden. I'm not quite sure. Somewhere in Europe.
Them Scandinavian 2D puzzle platforms.
Again, look, I'll tell you, those guys know what they're doing. And so yeah, he's done a fantastic job with Gunman Clive too. Like, there's no reason for you not to buy it. It's just brilliant. And the bosses are super creative as always. They are tough as nails, but you just need to learn those patterns, get them down, and you're in there. And loads of surprising, fantastic, innovative, interesting things. I love Gunman Clive too. Not much more bad to say about it. I can almost guarantee it'll be on my list for the best of this year. I'll tell you what, it's a standout game.
And it's only £2. Wow.
Yeah. Well, the first one's £2. I think the second one's $2.50.
What a rip.
What? Oh, jeez. God, come on, extra 50p. What are you doing to us here? But yeah, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, the other game I've been playing is one that I've been chipping away for a little while now. I made mention of it maybe a couple of episodes ago. Is Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, and this was gifted to me, as I said before. I believe it was from Wave Rider 900 Aiden, I think, on Twitter. I think it was him.
Thank you.
I can't quite remember because his Steam ID is different from his Twitter, so I don't know. If I'm getting that wrong, I'm sorry, but I think that's...
Tell us via an email.
Yeah, complain to us, because we're terrible human beings. So I've been playing Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor obviously won loads of Game of the Years last year. It's obviously this open world action game where you are a ranger who has been turned into an undead ranger because you get killed at the beginning, and so does your family.
Lore.
Lore. Basically, here's the story. Let me give you the story in 3 sentences. Number 1, you die. Number 2, Elf Lord gets his soul into your body. Number 3, you have to find out what happened to the Elf Lord and find out his past because he forgot. And that is basically how the story rolls out. Yeah, he forgot. I don't know. He didn't know what happened. Something about Sauron. Sauron was in there doing his shit, and then like he made rings or something. I think he was like a ring maker. He was like one of the elvish. Yeah, he was one of them ring guys. I don't think any of that matters. And you were talking to me about this, like you always say, like, I don't care about story because you're always getting invested in
the story, man. You know, yeah, it's all about that story.
And I do care about a story, but I care about a story where it's actually a story that matters and I actually have a reason to be interested in.
It's really funny that they did go with the theme and the setting of Lord of the Rings and then managed to cock up the story. Like,
yeah.
That could have been the best bit.
It could have been, yeah, like, potentially.
That really annoys me. It's not just you.
I mean,
who said
it's
the
not that
bad. Sorry, everyone said it's bad, which is a real shame.
Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. I just say it's boring, right? I just say I'm not really interested.
Because I quite liked, a lot of people were harsh on Assassin's Creed 4's story, and I thought it was okay. Like, it was fine. It was quite good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I would kind of argue that the stories of Shadow of Mordor are the stories you make yourself, right? As opposed to the one that the narrative lays out for you. And what I mean by that is, of course, the system they implemented in this game, the Nemesis system, which everyone talks about, how if you get killed by an orc, that orc is going to get promoted and he's going to go rank up in the army and become more powerful. And the next time you see him, he'll remember and he'll be like, "Oh, motherfucker, why are you still alive? I killed you." And you're like, "Well, this time I'm taking you down." Then he kills you again. You're like, "Fucking damn it." And he gets promoted again. And then you see him again. Okay, so this is like the premise that most people should be experiencing. I haven't really experienced that, if I'm honest. Like, the ways that I've died and the amount of times that I've died haven't necessarily given me the opportunity that I think the developers wanted, where you find this one orc who you really hate and you have a hard time fighting him. Because the way that I went about it just didn't... I don't know. I ended up dying during main missions quite a bit and not, like, out in the open world. And so it just didn't really affect me in the same way. Which, I don't know, it's interesting.
One thing I've noticed just from watching gameplay and watching you play it via your live stream is just that it all just looks a bit brown and dark. And
yeah.
grimy. Like,
Well,
do
it
you
is
think
set in Mordor, Bally, the
yes,
fucking
but,
darkest realm of
Mord
Middle Earth.
Mordor's next to, the nice bits, and like, so
Yeah.
it's 100% quite grimy, or like, do you wish there was a bit more nice stuff?
Color,
Color,
maybe would be
yeah,
nice. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the setting is it's not really visually impressive. Not from like a graphic standpoint, but from like I guess an art standpoint.
yeah.
Like it's very grays and browns. The funny thing is, like I actually got to the second map today. There's a second area that you go to, and that place is way more green. There's a lot of grass there and stuff, and it's actually really refreshing, and it makes me want to play this game more, because I think one of the problems I have with open world games is I don't know when I should stop, and I kind of veer on the end of stopping early rather than stopping late when I'm playing them. Like, I won't stay up forever and play an open world game. I'll do like a couple of missions and I'll be like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling like I want to invest and stay in this world right now. It's kind of feeling a bit more uncomfortable, but certainly this more open grassy area is nice, so I guess that's a bonus. It means I want to stay in the world a bit more. But I was saying before about like how the stories kind of emerge from gameplay. And one of the interesting things is the way this orc system works is like there's different ranks. So you have like captain, elite captain, and then whatever. It leads up to war chief. So war chief is the big one. It's the main guy in charge. When you attack them, they have all their hordes come after you. They have certain weaknesses and certain things they are invulnerable to and everything. So the game, one of the first missions in the game tells you to go kill this war chief. So I go after this war chief, and I get there, and I'm like, shit, like, this is really hard. This guy is destroying me. He's sending loads of orcs after me, and I'd gained some intel from before that this guy was weak to stealth finishes. So, like, I was trying to run away, I was trying to get away, I got up this tower, like, hid behind this bush or whatever, and I found kind of a way to draw him away from the rest of the enemies, and I jumped down and murdered him in a single shot with a stealth kill, because he was basically one stealth kill would kill him. So I got rid of him and he died. I was like, fuck yeah. I just felt so good because this guy was really difficult. And so then I find out that the war chief the game wanted me to go after is not the one I've just killed. I've gone after one of the war chiefs that is like way harder than I should be trying at this very start of the game, but somehow, because I found out a way to kill him in one hit, I managed to do it, and I was like, wow, okay, that's crazy. Like, I haven't done a main story mission, I've just gone after this other war chief who I shouldn't be able to beat yet, and yet I did do it. I think there's just an amazing thing the game allows you to do that, because it is so open, and it lets you run free from the beginning, which is just, that's the kind of thing I hope the new Zelda does, is like, I hope it doesn't constrain you, and it lets you just run free from the start. So
it allows you to go out and make mistakes and like experience more. Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a nice little story.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing about Shadow of Mordor. I think it's kind of made up of those nice little stories. There was another one where I had marked a target and I'd gathered intel about him, and I was just wandering around the world, and I get to this tent, and he just walks out the tent, like, there and there. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I'm kind of just wandering around going about my own business, and he just walks out the tent, it's like, motherfucker, come fight me, and then I just duel him then and there and take him out. But, it's just the stories that emerge from just being out in the open, which is really cool. It is a very stealth-focused game as well, which I found kind of bad in some senses. I think the thing with Shadow of Mordor is it's not as fun to play when you start, because you don't have many options available to you. Like, there is an ability you get later on called Shadow Strike, where you basically point your bow and arrow at an enemy, and you will basically warp straight to their side and murder them instantly. I'm just like, fuck, that's so cool. Like, that's one of the things that I wanted to eventually get, but when you start, you don't have that, obviously, so you have to be much more sneaky and kind of go around and just manually get there on your own without warping around the map. So I feel like if people are starting this game and they're not really getting into it, that's probably why, because they're forcing you to, use the bare basics before you get access to these all-powerful abilities that you have. So I'd say that, if you're in that situation, just wait a bit and you'll eventually get there, and makes it much more fun. But yeah, they offer you a lot of different approaches. There are like bees nests, so you can shoot down bees nests, which will scatter some of the orcs. There are caragors, which are like these rideable beasts. You can ride them, but you can also unleash them on the orcs as well. And you can kill people from above, as I said before. Stealth kills, you have a lot of options available to you basically, and really the fun part is entering a situation and deciding what you want to do. And that's really where I think this game stands out. So I'm still playing it. I don't know how much more I have to go, how many more hours, but I know, Bally, this is a game that you are kind of jealous of me having the opportunity to play. It's the one like next-gen game that you're interested in, I guess, especially after playing Assassin's Creed, which, by the way, this game is way better than Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, from like a parkour standpoint and all that stuff. It's way more similar to... Yeah, it's way more similar to Infamous in terms of being able to just... Like, this guy is basically a superhero. He can just jump up anything. It doesn't matter. And it's way faster and more streamlined and just a better combat system, I think, than Assassin's Creed has. So, definitely one to be watching out for. Awesome. Well, I guess I'll pick back up with some Shadow of Mordor when I get a bit further in. But for now, I think that's going to close out our segment. I had talked quite a bit here about games, Bally, but we had a lot that we'd played, so bears the description, I think. Absolutely. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back after this quick break with your emails. Be back soon.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the second segment of Now You're Playing with Power. Yes, this is me hosting the segment because NBZ's got a little bit of an issue with his voice just now. So there's more talking in this segment, so I'm going to take it by the reins and I'm going to read out the questions. So NBZ, what do you say I get on with the first question?
How about you do that, Bally? Unfortunately, we're not recording this whole podcast at the same time, as you can probably tell.
We have been found out.
And my sickness has gotten a little worse, so my voice is bad and my nose is running. So, Bally, taking the reins here.
So our first question is from Joyous Poke. Have you ever received multiple copies of the same game? And if you did, what did you do with them?
Well, I guess he's talking about Christmas, right? And getting gifted games that you perhaps already owned before. I can't think of any instances where this happened to me, quite honestly.
So, like, I said this story a while ago to MBZ, and you didn't even believe me that this happened. But when we were younger, I was at your house, and I swear to God, like, you received the game Bounty Hunter for the Xbox. The original Xbox, and like from a family member,
this
and
is
then like
Star Wars Bounty Hunter, right?
Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
I actually can't really remember. Like before you brought this up to me, I completely forgot this game existed because like the old Star Wars games I remember was like this game called Obi-Wan that was on Xbox as well, which never came out on anything else. But I completely forgot about Bounty Hunter, where I believe you were Boba Fett or Jango Fett playing.
I think it's Django because it came out, I think, just at the same time as Episode 2, I want to
say. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember.
Anyway. I don't think I've ever received multiple copies of the same
Wait, did you finish the story, by the way? I'm not sure you finished.
Oh, the story was basically that, you got that from a family member, and I think your mum returned it or something. That was about it.
Because I didn't own an Xbox, obviously, so I got an Xbox. You remember this somehow, and I don't.
Yeah, my memory's really bad, but it's got these random streaks of brilliance. Let's just say.
Yeah, sure. Let's say that. Let's say that.
But yeah, multiple games. I think, like, I randomly so at school, at like our boarding house, they were like clearing out one of the old common rooms, like it was like a prefect's room for like the senior year, and they didn't want any of the stuff in it, and we were told to just like clear it out. And in that common room, there were like old games. So there was Super Mario Brothers 3, like the actual NES cart, and there was also Super Mario 64. And I literally said to others, I was like, "Does anyone want these?" And they were like, "No, no, you can have it. You can have it, Bally." I'm like, "All right." So I just took Mario 64, and because I don't own an NES, I didn't even take Mario Bros 3. I definitely should have.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You should have so taken that, man.
I know. How much big of a mistake is that?
Oh, dude, that would
Is
have
that
been
worth
awesome to
anything?
have.
I don't think it's worth that much.
Probably not, but I just think it's a cool thing to own, right?
Definitely,
Like an
yeah.
NES cartridge. So.
I do regret that. But anyway, so yeah, I randomly own Mario 64, even though I've never actually played it. I only played it on the DS. On the
Right.
remake, which is a bit random.
I guess. True.
That's not really the same, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Aside from that, like no duplicates really. I think a lot of this is down to the fact that we told our parents what we wanted
Educating
beforehand.
the family.
Right, exactly. Because I would say to like my mom and dad, I want these games, and then they would like go out to my aunts and uncles and say, okay, you buy this one, you get this, whatever. Like the way that it was passed out was that way. So they never had to be in the dark about it. Apart from apparently this one time when I got Bounty Hunter, when I guess I was supposed to get another Star Wars game that was on GameCube. Although you were telling me that Bounty Hunter was on GameCube, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
One little story. I lent a Game Boy Advance game, the Game Boy Advance game Crazy Racers. It was the launch game I got with the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
I lent it to Charlie.
Oh,
And, wow. Yeah, basically he lost it, and then
What?
And then I said, "Oh, can I have it back?" And then he was like, "Oh, it's fine." Like, and then he bought another one and gave it to
Really?
me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
I remember that game. Crazy Racers
It's a
was.
great game, and it's so much better than Mario Kart Super Circuit.
Yeah, you all said that at the time.
Yeah.
It was, that was one of those that I actually wanted on GBA, but I never ended up getting because my GBA I got a bit later than the rest of you.
Yeah.
But,
Konami,
yeah.
great game.
yeah. What Konami doing these days? I guess releasing Castlevania
Metal
ports
Gear
on.
Solid.
Yeah, pretty much. Konami's entire business is Metal Gear Solid at this
Yeah.
point. They've forgotten about everything else they own. Unfortunate as that may be.
So
Yeah.
I guess the next question is from Elias. Hey Bally and Nbz. So far we have seen some things from the new Zelda game, but I think something big is missing. And by that I mean the gimmick of the new Zelda game. Almost every Zelda game since A Link to the Past had some kind of gimmick. For example, transforming into something or switching between different worlds. Do you think they will add something like that, or do you think it will be kind of like Wind Waker and you just get to explore that huge world? I want to hear some of your thoughts and speculations on the topic. Please keep up the good work. I love your podcasts. Greetings from Germany, Elias.
Very good. I am almost gonna say that guaranteed we have some sort of hook here. Although I don't know, with the idea of it being this first open world Zelda, they may feel the need to like do something different there. But the reason I say that is because every time that one of these hooks is implemented into a Zelda game, it is intrinsically tied to the title of that game. I think pretty much in every case, right? Like I'm trying to think of a case where the title doesn't actually fit the main mechanic. Like Wind Waker is the Wind Waker. Twilight Princess, I guess, is one that stands out.
Well, I guess it is the Twilight Realm, and that's associated with the wolf, so it's kind of Ocarina of Time, of course.
Obviously,
Majora's
Ocarina.
Mask.
Yep.
Spirit Tracks.
Yeah. I guess all the mainline console Zeldas, and obviously Link Between Worlds, there's a similar thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that this game has a big gimmick, as you'd call it. That's quite a negative word, perhaps, gimmick. Like,
right, I get like a
twist.
central theme. A central theme.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some sort of theme that we don't fully know about yet that is still to be revealed in my opinion.
Do you think that they're going to continue along the path of using some kind of musical instrument? Because I know that they want to kind of rethink the conventions of Zelda, and maybe losing the musical instrument thing could be something they do, because it is like one of those consistencies that maybe they don't need to have every time. It's neat, but like since Ocarina, pretty much most Zelda games have had
I mean,
a musical thing.
what about some sort of contraption like an ancient puzzle that Link picks up? It's almost like an ancient Rubik's cube that he holds in his hand,
Uh-huh.
and then in order to use it, you have to do intricate stuff using the gamepad or something. And there's like certain codes and puzzles to do for it to enact certain like songs, like an ocarina. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if I go along those lines, but certainly I think whatever the central gimmick is will use the gamepad in some way.
yeah.
Maybe not extensively, but it will be, I think, a part of it. We'll see, but I don't know. Maybe there's just going to be more focus on the horse as like a character and something that you rely upon in the world, because obviously you're going to be going around this open space for hours and hours, and your horse is going to be a big part of that, because otherwise you're going to have to run everywhere, and that's probably not the most efficient means of moving around the place.
Yeah.
So perhaps something to do with the horse, and that becomes the most important aspect of it, because it really seems like they're gunning with this kind of dual relationship between Link and his steed, as it
Yeah,
were, so
definitely. I mean, like in Twilight Princess, for example, I think that the horse feels more like a luxury or a fast transport. It doesn't actually feel like something you absolutely have to have in order to traverse the world. Like the world is still quite sizable, but you can definitely run across the world in a few minutes. Like it's not a big deal. Whereas I'm hoping, and I do think that this game will be much more like Wind Waker, where you genuinely are completely reliant on the King of Red Lions and your boat, because that's how you get from A to B, and you're definitely not going to swim between those islands.
No,
So
exactly.
yeah, like I do think if they can introduce Epona in that way, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, certainly. And also, like from I think even the original trailer, it looked like on the horse, Link had a bunch of gear and stuff, and like those arrows that he pulls out of the back. Like it seems like it's saddled up as if you're out for an adventure, out for a journey. And so I don't know. There's certainly going to be a central focus around that. Well, do you think that the horse will be mentioned in the title somewhere? In that case?
That is interesting. Yeah, that would be that. I would like that. I don't think it will happen, but I think that'd be cool if it did.
Let's
Yeah.
come on, Bat. Let's throw out some guesses here
Oh,
for
here we
Zelda,
go.
the
Here we
Zelda
go.
title. I don't know.
The
Legend of
Legend of
Zelda.
Epona's
We both
travel.
a bonus track.
Epona's quest.
A bonus. No, I don't know. I think steed, the steed in the wind. I don't know. No.
The
no.
Legend of Zelda. Ponytails.
Pony. Because Link also has a fucking ponytail in his hair in this E3 trailer. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
struck
The
a
Legend of
genius.
Zelda ponytails. That you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. I definitely think actually that we will hear the name revealed and like that main gimmick at E3 this year.
Yeah.
And it's really actually kind of crazy how fast time goes. I was checking today on Twitter, and someone mentioned it's only 4 months until E3.
Oh, boy.
Which is like
8
what?
episodes.
What? Yeah, Jesus, what's happening? Where's time gone? So, you know, it's sooner than we think, Bal.
We've got a lot to play in those 8 episodes if we're
I'm
gonna
sure we
like
do.
with all their releases coming out before then.
Very good. Yeah. All right. Well, good question. We enjoyed that one.
So the next question's from Saint. You guys talked about the new 3DS, and all I can say is at least you guys have something. In the States, we've got nothing, and I'm really looking forward to it because my 3DS is starting to die, and playing Smash Brothers on it isn't helping. I was wondering if there were any ports or specific genres you guys are hoping for the new 3DS. Keep up the good work. Till next time, Saint.
Okay. Cool. What would you like to play on the new 3DS, Bally? Obviously, at the moment, we only have Xenoblade coming out on it, and if we're thinking along those lines of, I guess, Wii games to be ported over, there are a few that I guess spring to mind. Twilight Princess is one, certainly, that I think a lot of people are speculating maybe will be a release for the new 3DS.
Another big one is Mario Galaxy 1, partly because Mario Galaxy 2 was the offer on the Wii U, so everyone was like, oh, why did they do 2 and not one, and
Right.
like it's a bit strange to do two first. So maybe they're holding one back for either an HD remake on Wii U or something related to the new 3DS. I still think it's absolutely ridiculous that there's not been any talk of like, N64 and GameCube, and I'm really hoping that the new 3DS has some sort of functionality that can have a virtual console for either of those systems.
Bally, you're dreaming.
I know
like,
I'm dreaming,
if
but
the Wii U doesn't even have those, and the Wii U,
that's true.
like if the original 3DS can't even emulate GBA properly, you are barking up the wrong tree, Sonny Jim. I'll tell you.
What about I mean, we now do have the Game Boy Advance Virtual Console on the Wii U, but what if they at least had Game Boy Advance Virtual Console on the new 3DS? I mean, but having said that, there's very few GBA games I'm now still needing or wanting to play. That I'm sure will come out on Wii U eventually. No, I'm not really overly hoping for anything specific. Anything like a Galaxy, a Sunshine, a Twilight Princess, any of these remakes on the new 3DS, I think would be pretty cool, and I'd probably pick any of those up. Yeah, even though I've played the originals for all of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think like what else could they release on new 3DS, because you don't want to get in a situation where a brand new first party game comes out from Nintendo and is exclusive to the system, because then you're alienating such a huge number of people. The numbers released recently said that there are 50 million 3DSs now sold total worldwide. So that's a huge amount of people that you are leaving in the cold if you are doing an exclusive game for the new 3DS that isn't already on another system, which is why I feel like they're going to have to like crutch on these ports.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like talk of the virtual console might be a bit more realistic, because virtual console isn't brand new content, it's just remaking existing content, and it's a great bonus feature that would divide the market far less than brand new AAA content onto the new 3DS exclusively. And that's what Xenoblade does. It's like, this is a bonus for those who do own the new 3DS, but for those who don't, if you really want it, you can pay £100 and buy it on the Wii. So maybe I've just eaten up my own argument there, but I don't know. I'm not overly fussed about what comes out. I'm just happy to have a great system to play all my existing games.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Nintendo have kind of painted themselves in a corner by announcing the Wii Virtual Console on Wii U at the same time as having a Wii game ported to 3DS. Because now it's like, well,
it's really confusing.
Right, where do these rebranded Wii games go? Who decides which ones get remastered on 3DS? Who decides which ones go to Wii Virtual Console? And I think it's maybe a case can be made for pushing the more niche titles to the 3DS to try and gain momentum behind them. And I think that's what they're doing with Xenoblade mainly, right? Is they want some hype leading into X, and they know that not many people got to try Xenoblade because of the circumstances of its release and just it being a niche title in general. So it would be smart, I think, to take some of the, not as well-known Wii games, like I don't know, The Last Story, which is a similar situation. I mean, they've already announced like Pandora's Tower and Sin and Punishment 2 for the Wii Virtual Console. Yeah. So it is. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. Metroid Prime 3 on the new 3DS would have been pretty kick-ass.
And you also have the circle pad, not the circle pad, the second analog stick. Actually, talking about that, there is already that shooter announced, Ironfall, right? It was in the Nintendo Direct at the end. I definitely think more eShop stuff that utilizes the camera like that seems like it would be a smart fit, and obviously you could still use it on the original 3DS, it just wouldn't play as well, right? So Nintendo could potentially release a shooter of their own on 3DS, but have it, be better on new 3DS because you have that nub there, and make it more difficult, I guess, for the original one. So
I mean,
parity.
I'm kind of buying the new 3DS looking backwards rather than forwards. Like, it's sort of like a nice upgraded system I can now play all my existing games on, and I accept that I will probably have to buy another Nintendo console in the next 2 years, whether that's handheld or the new home console, or maybe a halfway house, as so many people are hinting.
Yeah, as people are predicting.
Yeah, so it's not really like a system I'm getting in order to play new games that are going to be amazing and exclusive or whatever.
Right, but I mean, it certainly helps now that we've kind of decided Codename S.T.E.A.M is a thing we're interested in.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a much nicer time with it having that second stick, and also you'll have the improved 3D, so there's no ghosting issues or anything that you'll have. I feel actually this is an interesting thing with me, honestly, is I haven't been using the 3D as much on the XL. No, it's
because it's so strong.
Right. First of all, it's really strong, and I think the ghosting is actually a bit worse on the XL. So hopefully the new one is way better at doing that. With the eye tracking technology, it seems like it will be. So
I think you'll pick up a new 3DS eventually.
Yeah, I'll probably end up getting like a capture unit at some point with the.
And you think you'll go for the big one again?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't see myself downgrading at this point. Like, we're at this junction where. The Wii U gamepad exists, and that's like this nice, big, chunky thing to get my hands on, and going back to like a tiny little 3DS is not really where I want to be at this point in time. I like the big stuff, so I'm going to stick with it, I think.
Excellent. Well, I think that's all we're going to do for this time in terms of emails. But yeah, keep sending them in. The email address is nyppquestions@gmail.com. That's nyppquestions@gmail.com. And yeah, we're running out as usual. We've got a few back for next time, but it'd be nice to get a few more. Tell us everything, your questions, what you're playing, all that good stuff. So yeah, anything else you want to say, NBZ?
Not really. I guess
Excellent.
We'll just get to the next segment.
Yeah, let's jog on to the next segment, and we're going to talk about some news.
And we are back for the third segment here of our very lovely show, and we have a bit of a news roundup, I guess. There's been some little bits here and there that I guess none of them warranted a segment on their own, but we can just clump them all together and bada bing, bada boom, we got stuff to talk about. So the first thing I want to mention is something I actually did a video on. It's some new details regarding the upcoming Nintendo project Splatoon, an IP we're both excited about, right, Bally?
Absolutely, I'm so buzzing for this game, and I've sort of it's slowly been growing on me more and more since it was announced at E3, and it was the new IP, and they've had a few successful directs now. Just one I think, but they did talk a lot about it. And
they certainly seem to be pushing it quite a bit. It was actually available at, we're going to talk about this later, but the Smash Brothers tournament this weekend, Apex, they had booths there for Splatoon, so it does seem...
I assume they were the same booths as E3.
Probably, yeah. I think it's probably a similar demo, but they definitely are having this push now on, I guess, their kind of esports scene, as it were. They sponsored that Smash Brothers tournament, and it seems like they want to get people playing Splatoon and hopefully grow that as a new thing. So we'll see where that leads them. But regardless of all that, there were some interesting, perhaps slightly controversial details coming about the game, and I talked about them on the video. I'm kind of interested in your perspective here, Bally. So
Sure.
The two important ones are that they are not offering any voice chat for kind of random play. So if you jump in on your own online into a match and you're on a team, there is no voice chat whatsoever with the other players. is this a deal breaker? Do you care about this? What are your thoughts on?
It's not. First of all, it's not surprising.
No, it's not.
But secondly, it's not really a deal breaker for me because I mean I've never really got heavily invested in a multiplayer, like I don't even know what you would call that style, like where there's more than just two of us online playing. So like I guess Mario Kart is like that, but I've never
Yeah.
become heavily invested in anything like Call of Duty Online or something like a Titanfall where group chat and talking to your teammates is probably more important.
Well, I mean, even then, thinking about something like Titanfall and Call of Duty, it isn't necessarily that important to voice chat because you know your aims, and your aims are to just murder the other team. With
Okay, yeah.
Splatoon, the reason I think Splatoon's an interesting case and why this is a bit more important is that Splatoon is a team-based game at its core, right? Like, you're having to work together to meet the end goal. It's not about the first person to get however many kills. It's about you all working as a team to cover the ground, you know? So, trying to, like, lay down strategies and figuring out where you want to lay traps and all that stuff, all that kind of, you know, teamwork is, I feel, necessary in this game if you want to play it well
Yeah,
anyway. In order to enjoy
I
it, so.
definitely agree that if you want to play it well, that's necessary. But I have a feeling, just based on what I've seen so far, that the vast majority of people who probably won't play at a top-notch level, like ourselves, probably,
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
think we'd have an absolute ball of a time just doing your own thing and regardless of what weapons you're using, just sort of doing your own thing, doing your part for the team, and then seeing who comes out on top as a result. Like I don't know. I think it's a very narrow, hardcore audience who will be
Sure.
most affected by the lack of voice chat.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference to me really because I'm going to
Yeah.
be playing with you, and
And
you
we're
know
going to
we
be on
might.
Skype,
Yeah,
exactly, and
and we
we're
might
going to
get
have a
like some
good
people
time.
from Twitter or whatever, and say,
Yeah,
hey, if anyone else wants to join, like, because then we know that there are people who want to play properly, and we're not jumping in with some randoms who are going to dick about or whatever.
yeah,
So we actually have that opportunity, which is cool.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it, and we obviously we go on Skype for every online thing we do, and Nintendo never really provide us with the means to do it anyway. So why
No,
wouldn't we use
and
it?
I wouldn't really want them to, just for the simple reason that the microphone and the format of the gamepad isn't the most amazing thing ever. Like,
We actually have tested this with Trying to. Surprisingly enough, a launch Wii U game from an indie studio
yes,
has better online voice chat support
yeah,
than any other Nintendo game.
yeah.
I mean, it didn't work great. The
No, I
audio
mean,
the audio quality is not perfect on that
yeah, and
microphone.
that's an interesting one in the sense that we really had to play with the sound levels in the settings just to be able to hear each other.
Right, right.
And yeah, it's a bit fiddly, and yeah, I'm definitely happy to just Skype unless I mean it would take Nintendo in their next console to just kind of go whole hog with a headset or something, and I just really don't see them doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't seem like their sort of thing, and we know from the past that how, careful they are about, not wanting kids to be badly influenced, because a lot of younger people will play on their systems, right? And
Yeah.
they don't want
I
that
mean,
kind of
I don't know about you,
exposure.
but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of scenarios in Splatoon, just like there are in Mario Kart, where there's going to be some horrendous language coming out of my mouth, and
Yeah.
that'd just be really unfair to make a kid have to listen to all of that. So
Exactly, exactly. Well, okay, so there's that. There's no voice chat. But there's another interesting thing. They're basically saying that they are going to force 8 people matches, I guess is the way to phrase it. So I guess some online shooters will start replacing human players, or even not even needing human players to start a match. So, say another example would allow you to do a 3-on-3 match, but in this, it's forcing 8 people, it's forcing 4-on-4, and I think this isn't going to be a problem in the beginning. Obviously, a lot of people are going to get it, and a lot of people are going to be playing online the first couple of months. But what happens when people start to tail off, right? When there aren't enough people online and you can't fill up a lobby, you get to the point where, well, what am I going to do? If they're not letting me do this game, I'm going to sit here for endless hours on end trying to get one. And, in turn, that's going to force more people away from it. So I guess it feels like they may slowly kill their own online scene if they don't handle this properly and fix it when it comes to that point. What are your thoughts here on this, Bally?
um, it's really hard to say. I mean, um, I I just don't see how getting 8 people would be difficult. Like I don't think I think I'd happily wait for an extra few minutes to ensure that you had a 4-on-4. I guess you're implying it'd be better if they had a format where there'd be fewer players and you can jump in quicker.
Right, I mean, like, take a look at Nintendo Land and Mario Chase, for example. If you're playing with fewer players, like, they reduce the map size, they make
Yeah.
things more scalable. So, in an ideal world, if you can't get enough players, then, they use a smaller map and they scale it down, and then it's more intimate and it makes more sense for the number of people taking part. So,
I think it might be a bit more complicated than that in the sense that they will have invested so much time in balancing how these weapons work in a 4 versus 4 format.
right,
And
okay,
it might
yeah.
be really difficult. It might not be feasibly possible just to scale it down in the same way. But I mean, if I'm happy to wait online a while to, get a good game going, and I'm happy with that. And I mean, surely this game is going to sell well enough to the point where certainly for the first year, you're not never going to have to wait that long, hopefully. But you're right, further down the line there might be a few issues, and that might be a bit of a shame. But we can just go on forums or like talk to people and Twitter and ensure that we can get 8 people. Like, I don't think it should be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, basically, my worry is just like 5 months down the line when there are very few people playing. The Wii U's install base is low as it is, right?
That's true.
So, trying to imagine how many people are going to buy Splatoon, how many of them are going to consistently play it, you could get to a situation where a specific point in time there are only maybe 30 people in the world playing it online, and it may not work out. So, I don't know. It's yeah, we'll see. The thing I'd also like to point out here is like a game like Titanfall, which was so big and across multiple platforms, pretty much died after 3 months or so. And trying to get games in formats other than the main mode was next to impossible. So if they're doing multiple formats, multiple kind of map designs and objectives, basically, then that stuff may be hard to find games for, like the less
Yeah.
popular ones. So.
But I think if you're funneling literally everyone who comes online into this one mode 4 versus 4, then surely that would help.
I mean, yeah, it probably would, and they'd probably start recommending people to do that. But say, for example, they do a different spin on it where the objective is different, and like it's a capture the flag, or it's a, they always have different styles of
Yeah.
these kind of things. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, it'll affect some people. I don't think it affects us hugely. So we'll follow that one. Splatoon's always one we're keeping an eye
Hype.
out on. Exactly. So I guess the next thing we'll talk about is I talked about this briefly at the start of the Splatoon discussion. Apex 2015. It was the biggest Smash Brothers tournament in history, where I believe over 1,000 entrants for Melee and close to 900 or so for Smash Brothers Wii U. So yeah, it was pretty crazy because, I mean, even before this event began, there was some drama that went on with the fact that their entire convention center that they had booked out got shut down because of fire security reasons, and then like some roof collapsed in and some garage collapsed in. It was all a crazy mess, and people are really kind of worried about this because they're thinking, wow, this entire event is going to be screwed over if we're wasting this whole day, and they've had 3 days of planning and they know exactly what's on what, and it was almost completely cancelled. Were you following any of this at the time, Bally? I know you were on Twitter and maybe picked up on a bit.
Yeah, I saw little bits here and there on Twitter, and I think there was some campaign like retweet this to get Apex to move to this building or something. I think was the tweet, and like it was pretty big that it just kind of influenced Twitter in the way it did. And I mean, it's really great they did manage to move buildings, didn't they? And
Yeah, they
the
did.
whole
They managed to
tournament
sort
could
something
go
out.
ahead. But yeah, I guess that drama might have worked out in a good way, just for a bit more
Maybe.
publicity. And
Certainly, yeah, it would have drilled up some buzz around it, and people would be talking about it way more,
yeah.
with hashtags on Twitter and stuff. Certainly, that would have helped them.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, I guess not. And especially they have this is a big deal with Apex, is because this is the first time ever that Nintendo has sponsored it, right?
That's really cool. That's the
Yeah,
bigger
they're
story,
going
isn't
in,
it?
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big deal. And having them on board, probably I'm not sure if Nintendo were involved in helping them get a new venue, but I'm sure they were trying to pull strings. I'm sure Bill Trinan was talking up with NOA and trying to sort stuff out there because they want this to go well for them. It's their first big outing for Smash Wii U, and they want to try and push
Yeah.
that as much as possible as well. So
I mean that you're
certainly,
exactly right. Like they're now in a situation where they have a game that is. I mean, it still has divided the Smash community, as far as I'm aware, Smash 4, but it's still a much bigger following in terms of competitive play than Brawl, and the fact that it's the most current Smash Brothers and that Nintendo can actually get behind this, I mean, this sounds a bit cynical, but I mean, they could make a lot of money by getting behind this in the sense that, it might promote the game more and more people buy Smash, pick up Wii U's, promote Nintendo, etc.
yeah,
So, like, it's
absolutely.
in their interest and it's really positive that they're going along with this. And it felt before like, because it was Melee, and I'm sure in an ideal world, Nintendo would just sever Melee from their whole project just so they can sell more of the most recent one. But it's nice that they've kept Melee going with Smash 4 and that they can all be supported by Nintendo and they're not just, ignoring it as they did like entirely before Smash 4.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I feel there's a dichotomy here between the fact that clearly there are loads more people getting into competitive Smash Brothers as a result of Smash Wii U coming out and people
Yeah.
being really excited about it. So that's one aspect. But then you have the other aspect, which is the kind of ambivalence towards the new game from the Melee hardcore and the people who kind of are really invested and deep in that community. So let me give you an example here because this is something which is kind of crazy and not very nice that happened during Apex. So the winner of the Smash Brothers Wii U tournament is Zero. He obviously won the Smash Brothers Invitational at E3. And he's the guy with the scarf, and
All right.
people
Yep.
people identify him as such for that. So he basically, he's a Diddy Kong player. A lot of people don't like Diddy Kong, right? Diddy Kong is considered this really boring character to watch because he basically does the same combo over and over again. I believe don't quote me on this because I'm not invested in knowing all this competitive combo moves. But I think it's like a down throw to an up air and then you can follow up from there. But basically the whole crowd's just like chanting along whenever it happens because it's so obvious, like, and it always happens all the time. So anyway, he wins the Smash Brothers Wii U tournament, and obviously because they're running behind on schedule, people are kind of angsty and they want Melee on as soon as possible. So people are cheering for him, he thinks, but what they're actually cheering for is the fact that the Smash Brothers Wii U tournament is over and that they can move on to watch Melee instead, because no one was really interested. All these other people were there for Melee and not Smash Wii U. And there's also like some boos from the crowd, and he wrote this blog afterwards, talking about how they need to start removing this toxicity in the Smash community and this divide that there is, because there is a big one between anyone who loves Melee and any other Smash game. And I don't know what they're going to do about it, but they need to, in this period of growth that the community is going through, they need to find some way to figure it out, because there are some bad apples among the bunch there who are ruining things for people like Zero. And he's got this great moment. He's the first time he's won this major tournament, and he's not really getting any applause or anything for it. So
That is interesting, and like I can't even think of a solution there could be. I mean, you don't want to completely divide the tournaments to the point where you're manufacturing in a wall just to keep the fans separate. Like that's not
yeah.
gonna. It doesn't seem appropriate, and partly because I'm sure there's loads of the community who absolutely love both games, and
Yeah,
they're big
I'm
into
sure there
Melee,
are.
big into Smash 4. So
I think the problem is it's elitism a lot of the time with Melee, because it is such a more kind
yeah,
of technically proficient game, and obviously it's had a much longer life cycle, so people have taken years and years to learn and perfect it and
yeah,
to know it, and it's this quantity.
it is incredible how it is like evolved
Yeah, and I'm
and
not gonna lie, when it comes down to watching competitive Smash Brothers, Melee is really fun to watch. Like, I think it is way more fun to watch than Smash Wii U is. It's just faster, and it just has more crazy things happening. It's just kind of this breakneck speed.
I
Smash Wii U is good, but I just find watching Melee is more exciting.
I I I've not watched enough of Smash 4 to make a decision either way, but I certainly think that watching Smash 4 is, I feel like I can relate to it more. And because of that, I feel like I do prefer watching it, because the crazy shit that they pull off in Melee is so far out of our league that it just feels like a completely different game. And like the YouTuber Alax, he did a video explaining how, in his opinion, and I do agree with this opinion, is that Melee was a beautiful accident. Like the way that it is evolved and the way it is played is just, that wasn't how it was designed. That's just how it's evolved, and it's amazing. That some of the stuff you see with, whether it's, I don't know, down spikes, ledge grab, guarding, all the wave dashing and everything is incredible. But just watching a really impressive guy with a simple character like Mario in Smash 4, like a character I'm really getting into, and just watching the way that they use his moves in comparison to the way I use his moves. But then obviously he still uses, the pros will obviously use moves like the down spike, which is one of his best moves, the meteor smash, and like I just love watching that, because it feels like, hey, I could try out that. And like, while I still will never be able to play to the level they can with him, I feel far closer in that sort of aquarium, as it were, versus the Melee scene, because that Melee scene is just unbelievable.
It's kind of crazy. To the point at which probably the biggest story of that whole weekend was this Melee saga that happened, where I showed you kind of the YouTube video story of this situation, where this guy Leffen, who's like one of the best Smash players right now for Melee from Sweden, he shit talks a lot, and he basically shit talked this guy Chillin' Dude who made this rap, and then this whole thing happened. He said he was going to destroy him 5-0, and then he did destroy him 5-0, and then up steps Mango to the stage, and Mango calls him out to put $1,000 on the line, and then they have like one of the hypest matches in Smash history. And yeah, that whole saga was just, it was just really interesting, inside look into, that community and the way kind of the personalities, and that's the really interesting thing I find, and why I was so engaged in the Smash Brothers documentary, is because it's not just about the game, it's about the people who play it, right? And it's about these different backgrounds they come from, and their personalities, and their styles, and their characters, and I feel like that was a great representation of that, so.
It really, like, the hype and the way that fighting each other, it really reminds me almost of something like boxing, where there's all this sort of, and I mean boxing and not sort of wrestling, because that's
right
fake. Whereas this boxing, like when you see them get angry before a match or at the weigh-in, it's like you get the impression it's far more genuine, and like that is exactly what this community feels like. There's genuine tension and drama, and then they're just so serious during it, and it's great.
Yeah, it was fun. I didn't watch like a lot of it during the weekend. I caught Twitch streams here and there, but it was happening really late. They were obviously trying to cram in 3 days worth of Smash Brothers into 2 days, so they had to push the boat out quite a bit in terms of how late they were streaming until and everything. Obviously, being in the UK doesn't help because it's based in America. But yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed watching it, and I look forward to EVO, which is coming up soon, which is like the big fighting game tournament, and I know that Smash is going to have a big presence there. I think both Melee and Wii U are going to be there, so.
And I think that's nice, and that's so refreshing from the Brawl days, where Brawl just got shunned into the corner, whereas the Wii U version is actually,
And it helps that Nintendo are actually getting behind it this time, right? They're putting their money where their mouth is.
And they deserve to get behind it, because they've made a really great game. It works well.
All right. So a couple more items here. There was a Xenoblade Chronicles X Direct, which Bally knows nothing about. It was actually a Japan-only thing, so it was this about 20 minutes long. I didn't understand any of it because all in Japanese, but thankfully I follow smart people on Twitter who speak Japanese and can translate it. So I was following a little bit on Twitter, seeing a bit of translations. Obviously, good friends over at NeoGAF. I guess that I call them good friends, although they know nothing of our existence. But obviously, the Gaff has me covered all the time with that. Well, so.
We must make ourselves known to them.
Right, one day we'll reveal ourselves at last.
We'll reveal ourselves to the judge.
Last, we'll have our revenge. Yeah, obviously, loads of Japanese speakers and translators over there, so they told us all the stuff that was happening. Not a huge amount of new details, but some great looks at some of those areas. Now, Bally, remember when the Video Game Awards were happening and we saw the scope of the Zelda world, and we're getting kind of blown away by, like, how big is this map?
Yeah.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Xenoblade Chronicles X is going to bury Zelda and shit on its grave when it comes to scope. Like, quite honestly, the first area in Xenoblade Chronicles X is, like, at least 3/4 the size of the whole Zelda map, if not bigger than that. And that's one area out of possibly, like, 20, 30, who knows. This game is... They're actually saying that they were struggling to keep this on a single Wii U disc. Like, I believe it's a 22 gig download or something. Like, it pushes the bucket really, really far. So this game is going to be ginormous.
You know what? That's actually not very much based on the screen, like the gameplay I've seen so far. 22 gigs for a game that big.
Well, I don't know. They've somehow managed to do it. I believe it runs at 30 FPS at 720p, so that probably has a factor to play as well. It's not pushing the system all the way. I'm not sure if that doesn't make any difference on the size, but you know what I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
And we actually got some new info regarding online modes. I believe this actually came out after the Direct. Someone found on the website. So there are apparently going to be 4-player online quests, which means you can just buddy up with someone, get online, and just wander around the world and do quests with someone, which is a really neat idea. And it's not directly involved with the story, so like it's not necessary for that progress. But I like that they're implementing that they're allowing you, like, if you want to grind, but you don't want to grind on your own because that can take time, you can jump online with a buddy and you're gaining experience and getting loot and stuff at the same time. So that's awesome, and hopefully I'll get to use that if you get this game, Bally.
Well, I think I've decided this is my plan, right? I think you'll approve of this plan.
Okay.
My plan is to pick up the remake of Xenoblade on the new 3DS and complete it in time for Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Wow, that is you're gonna have to go at it, I'll tell you. But
oh really? Why? When are they both coming out? Well, I think the new 3DS game is coming out in
April.
March?
It's April.
April?
Yeah,
it's
April? Like 10th of April or something in Europe, something along those lines. And
is it just about, and X is just about to come out in Japan, I assume?
So, yeah, X is coming out at the end of April. So in Japan, it's like 2 weeks between the release of both these games.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy.
But I'm not in Japan, so like I've got a bit more time.
Yeah, you have basically probably until the end of the year, if not longer. So
surely I can do that.
Yeah,
then.
You probably could do.
I mean, it'll be my long game that I play in the background for about half the year, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a go.
And they also said there's 32-player indirect online for information exchange and item trading, which is interesting. I don't know what that means.
It's like the Global Trade Center.
Yeah, maybe. But Xenoblade,
here's my item.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, that seems really cool. I'm glad that they are implementing this kind of stuff because Xenoblade is a great single player game, but there's certainly scope for opening it up, and adding online is just one of those ways of doing that. Yeah, I don't think there's much more. Like, they showed some more stuff, usage with the gamepad, which I think is great what they're doing with it. They're showing the map on the bottom screen, but what you're able to do is to use that for quick travel, so you can just tap somewhere and go instantly, which is way better than they did it in Xenoblade. In Xenoblade, you'd have to go into this menu, choose like the region of the world map you wanted to go to, find the exact point, and zap there. And it did take a little while because the Wii took some time to load the menu, and it was a little bit of a kerfuffle, but this is going to be way more instant, way more free, and I believe you can also place beacons in places that you want to have a quick travel point, so you have like a limited number of those. So if you find a cool area and there's no like standard travel point near it, you can place your own and you can go back there later. So that's great. And there's also an awesome thing where basically it will do this overhead view of your characters, and then it'll give you complete camera control with the gamepad, so you can basically move it around, like they were showing in Zelda with placing the beacons, like moving the gamepad to look around the environment. A very similar thing to kind of like get your bearings and, you know, think about where you are in regards to everywhere else and make sure you're going in the right direction. So, you know, it's nothing groundbreaking with gamepad usage, but I like that they're committing to using it instead of like being Donkey Kong and just fucking turning it off when you don't need it. So I appreciate that that's happening. So yeah, excellent stuff. So the last bit of news we have here is...
Oh boy.
I hesitate to call it news, quite honestly. So the Wall Street Journal, Bally, how reputable would you say the Wall Street Journal are from your perspective?
I mean, it's right up there with, you know, IGN, Giant Bomb. Like they're really reputable, you know, gaming outlet.
Right. We know we go to them every day for our gaming coverage.
Exactly.
So the Wall Street Journal reported that Netflix are partnering with Nintendo on a Zelda TV series, and they've dubbed it that it's going to be Game of Thrones, but family friendly. And I don't know. I don't know even what to say regarding this, Bally. Do you have words coming to you?
Between this and was it confirmed there's going to be a Mario film as well?
Yeah. Well, that was something that in talks with Sony doing.
Okay,
right,
yeah.
apparently?
So like, someone in Nintendo has just decided, like, you know what we need to expand to? Like, yes, right. We've got these franchises. We need to like make TV shows and films. We need to get onto TVs. It's just
multimedia approach.
I feel like it's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's really strange.
I'm worried.
And I think, like, especially like the way they were phrasing it, Game of Thrones but family friend. Like, those are dichotomous phrases and just like ideas.
Yes.
Like, Game of Thrones is fundamentally not family friendly, so that doesn't make any sense. Like, making Game of Thrones family friendly doesn't make it Game of Thrones anymore. It's something completely different. So like, it doesn't make any, you know, logic.
I mean, you can do fantasy successfully without tons of violence, like, you know, Lord of the Rings, and I don't think the world of Zelda is maybe quite as magical. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's debatable.
Yeah.
But I think it could work if they... I don't know why they did that Game of Thrones comparison. That's a terrible comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think really it's for their mainstream audience, right? Like, it's the Wall Street Journal. You're not going to have gaming people read it most of the time. It's a much more kind of widespread readership. And so I guess they want to get across the point that Zelda is like, you know, some people won't know what Zelda is, so I guess get across that it's a fantasy setting, but get across that it's also not going to be, you know, hyper violent and crazy. So maybe that's why they said that. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. The thing is, like, I can believe it from a certain standpoint. A lot of people are kind of saying, yeah, this kind of is a ridiculous rumor. Like, it makes no sense, really. But if you think about what Nintendo have been saying recently and just their ideas of trying to leverage their IPs in different ways, they are taking this approach. You know, they started it in video games by partnering with Japanese companies to make things like Hyrule Warriors, and obviously the leak from Sony with the Mario movie. If we keep going along those lines, it actually kind of makes logical sense. You know, when you think about what they want to do in expanding their properties in this way. So, I don't know.
I mean, it's a tough market.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Like, I don't know. I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless about it. Like,
okay,
there's not much I can say about it.
So here's the funny thing about you being speechless. Link is also speechless in every Zelda game. How do you have a series where the main character is a mute? Like, unless you cut Link from the script entirely, or you have him as a kid who isn't the main character. Like, how do you approach that is a really interesting idea. So I don't know. I think that, look, anything is possible. It could be amazing, but let's kind of, side with history here and say that most likely scenario, it's probably not going to be.
It's utter terrible.
Yeah, most likely. But I don't know. Netflix have done fantastic things. House of Cards is one of the best shows, like hands down on anything. So they can do magic.
That's true. But did that Halo series ever happen?
I'm not sure. I think that was an Xbox exclusive thing.
Did it happen?
I think maybe. I don't pay attention to anything Halo related, so I wouldn't know. But I believe there was something. I don't know.
I was just trying to make a gaming comparison, but yeah. Like I said, I'm speechless.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There you go. That was not the news I expected to wake up to that day. I'll tell you what. That is kind of came out of left field. I got on Twitter and I was like, what? Yep, pretty much.
You made some link noises.
I did, yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And with that, I think we gotta close the show out, Bally. We've going a good while here. So before we run away off into the sunset, how about you tell the lovely people where you can be found on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter. My name is at Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91, and that is also my name on Miiverse. Yeah, I'm gonna start Bit Trip Runner. That's what I'm gonna be playing.
Oh, so, very good.
I'll probably post some high scores or have a go at that. So,
look, if you start bashing my high scores down in Runner 2, I may have to jump back into the fray, my friend, and school you. Yeah. We'll see.
So yeah, I'm going to be playing that,
awesome.
And hopefully tweeting a bit more. We'll see.
Yeah, good stuff. You can find me on the internet at Lord NBZ on Twitter. I'm Lord NBZ on Miiverse as well, unfortunately. As you probably know, I've been playing Shadow of Mordor and some other Vita games and stuff, so I haven't really been, partial to any Miiverse recently, but we'll get there. We'll get back to the fray at some point. It's always there, Miiverse. It's always there in the background.
And remember to send us your emails.
Absolutely. Where can they send those emails to, Bally?
You can send all your emails to us at nyppquestions@gmail.com.
There we go. Our email address is waiting for them. We need more. Send us your emails. We really appreciate hearing from you. I guess if you want to find the show, you can go to iTunes. We are over there. If you just search NYPP, we will be available to be subscribed to. Subscribing to our podcast makes it download automatically, and isn't that what we strive for in life? Making things easier for ourselves.
Seamless.
Gotta be part of this modern world here. Downloads happening when you don't even know they are. And bada bing, bada boom, you got a podcast. Magic, as if by magic. I think that is pretty much it. We will return to your ear holes in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, thank you very much for listening. And we will see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
The musical interludes used in today's show were the opening theme from Mega Man 2, copyright 1988 Capcom, and Runaway Train from Gunman Clive, copyright Hallberg Productions 2013.
Do you know this thing in the UK? There was this bill that was passed this week.
What happened?
It basically allows scientists to use the DNA from 3 different parents in order to help embryos. It's there are some inherited diseases that you can now prevent by using a third party DNA. So effectively there's 3 parent babies.
Fuck.
And
That's insane.
I know, right? And the UK is the first in the world to do it.
Right.
And then so a lot of the churches were really upset about it, obviously, like for religious reasons. And then someone, like one of the most popular tweets that got retweeted was like, it's really funny that the church is upset about this because I'm pretty sure Jesus had 3 parents.
Wow. Wow.
I just thought it was like such a smart ass tweet. It's quite
Owned.
clever.
Fucking owned.